Doug, you mentioned that you think that we need to rebuild the state's economic foundation and get back to basics.
Yes.
What do you mean by that, and how would you do it?
In the last 8 years, in fact, probably in the last 20 years, we have, as a state, not kept up with our roads and bridges, for example. We have not kept up with the 21st century economy in extending broadband access and telecommunications access around the state. We have seen our Lake Champlain diminish in quality. Despite our best efforts, it's not getting a whole lot better. Those are foundations, those are building blocks for a strong economy. And when you see them in decline, it doesn't give me the hope for the future that Vermonters want to have. And we need to get back to those basics and recognize that all the innovative programs in the world aren't going to do it, aren't going to solve the problem if we don't have what every business needs as a foundation. That quality of life is strong, that our infrastructure is strong, that we do have a good education system. So I've seen us going in the wrong direction in the last 8 years.
But how do you do that when the state's facing $115 million deficit, plus the $72 million for challenges for change, which you don't know whether or not
well,
that's
the first
real.
thing you do is you be realistic about that. And I'm the only one of the candidates who's saying I'm willing to look at the rainy day funds to help us get through this. Because if you cut another $100 million out of this budget, you are going to do harm to this state and harm to our ability to recover. So it actually would take us in the wrong direction. There needs to be a willingness to look at that. And then we need to say, okay, we need to set priorities. We need to reorder our priorities. We need to work with our congressional delegation. We don't talk too much about that, but the kind of money that the state's been able to invest in a number of these areas pales in comparison to what the federal delegation has been able to pull in. And I really look forward to sitting down with Senator Leahy, Senator Sanders, and Congressman Welch very early on and say, here's our economic development strategy. Ask them to be part of building it for the state. They know the economy very, very well. They work with Vermont businesses. They work with our communities. Let's see if we can unify all of our efforts so that we can really target state money in cooperation with federal money to make sure we're focused on what our priorities are. We do not have new money. That's a fact. And we aren't going to borrow our way out of this either. There's no way we can borrow enough money and be allowed to borrow that money without hurting our bond rating. We need to work with the resources that we have. And that's going to take a governor who wants to do the tough things, look at what we're spending our money on now, and ask whether we're getting the best return. And if we aren't, saying we aren't going to do that one anymore, we're going to stop that program, and we're going to invest in something that'll get us a better return.
Every one of those has a constituency in the market.
That's the issue.
Right. So how do you deal with each special interest, so to speak? The ski areas who want their promotional budget, the businesses who are growing and want tax credits, and each one has their claimed piece of pie.
John, it's interesting you mentioned that, because that's what we've been through in the economic development committees in the legislature this year. When we talk about shifting priorities, what we usually hear is, no, everything you're doing is great. We just need to add on to it. Well, the fact of the matter is there isn't money to add on to it. And I think the way you approach it is by involving the business community and have them, the leaders of the business community, become advocates for those changes by doing the analysis that needs to be done, putting the numbers in front of them, doing the kind of rigorous analysis, cost-benefit analysis that they're doing in their own businesses, and involve them in the process, make them part of it, so they aren't being challenged, they're being included. And that's my style. That's what I've done in this building for 20 years. Involve people in these decisions and ask them to help make those tough decisions and become advocates for them. It's not easy. I understand exactly what you're saying, because I've dealt with that. And that's the politics inside the State House. But we have to recognize that doing what we have been doing for the last 8 years, or the last generation in economic development, is not working in this economy. So things that we were doing 20 and 30 years ago may not be the best things, probably aren't the best things to be doing. We need to look towards the future. Again, it starts with that vision. What is it that we want the state to look like? Where are our opportunities, and how do we focus our existing resources to those opportunities and not yesterday's?